Welcome back to the Northern Steel Podcast. This is episode 20, Chris.
20.
20 episodes. Can you believe it?
I really can't. We've come a long way.
Can you believe that we're doing this for free?
I can.
But can you believe it? People at home.
Yeah.
Oh, they can believe it. Okay, well, here we are.
Yeah, I know.
Here we are doing a service for free for you. We're going to be talking about the Steelers, but we want to talk about it with you. We're not talking Steelers at you. We want to talk it with you. So feel free to follow us on all our social media platforms. Talk to us. I feel like I might sneeze, and I'm not going to. I held it in. That's how a professional does it. Chris, there's been a lot of Steeler news. Obviously, training camp started last week. I'm talking way too fast. Training camp started last week.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the very first day, and it's been going. And there's been about 6 practices since then, or 5 practices, 6 in total. Before we start talking more about that, let's talk about some of the NFL news that went on this past week.
I love it.
I was trying to think about an order to talk about the NFL news.
Sure.
Let's go good, then to neutral,
Mm-hmm.
and then to bad.
All right.
Good news. Let's start with some good news. The Steelers signed Chris Boswell to a 5-year extension.
That's amazing.
Yes, sir.
That is such a big signing. I mean, Boz is arguably the second best kicker in the entire NFL. And I know that a ton of people are high on that McPherson train after one season. I ain't about it. You know, Boz has proven himself time and time again. It is such a well-deserved contract extension. And I believe this puts him tied with Justin Tucker for the highest paid position, is at least what I saw with the 4-year, $20 million deal.
I did not see that, but deserved. Boz is a beast. And we discussed, I believe 2 weeks ago, with our friend Luke about contracts to give out to Deontay or to Boz. And Boz deserves it, man. He's clutch. He had one down year, but he deserves this contract. And we were very happy to see him get locked up as the second best kicker in the entire NFL. Yes, I'd like to say first, but come on, you can't discredit Tucker like that.
The dude is automatic. I'm not even gonna beat around the bush at all. I love having Chris Boswell. He is so good for us, but Justin Tucker is an animal.
But Boz number 2. Not bad, not bad. So that was great to see that. The Steelers had signed one of their own and got them extended. In some other non-extension news, oh yeah, he was tied. Look at Chris fact-checking it here. When he's right next to me. Look how much smooth that is, a podcast in person. In case you guys didn't hear, our podcast today is in person. Most of our podcasts are over a Skype call, and there's latency, and it sucks, and there's no personal. But now look at us.
Look how far we've made it.
Now we're in the same room. We got so much chemistry. We can finish each other's
sentences.
Look at that. I thought I was going to make a joke, and actually did it. We're professional here.
Look at us.
It's time to subscribe. There's no subscribe button, but it's time. The time is now.
Click it.
Do it.
If you touch the top right corner of this podcast, which I think is virtually impossible, there's a subscribe button, and then you can also donate lowest minimum of $100.
Yeah, just search our name on Venmo. That's all you gotta do. After the great news of Boswell signing, the more neutral news, Chris, would be that both DK Metcalf and Deebo Samuel signed their extensions this past week. Mm-hmm. Both of them making, I believe, at least $24 million a year. Both of them weren't very long contracts. I think DK's and Deebo were both potentially 3 years. Deebo was for sure 3 years. I don't remember if DK's was 3 years or not. All right, Chris is fact-checking again. Stand by. But with both those contracts happening at a $24 million per year with a big guarantee number on it, I believe around 50-something million, that begs the question again about Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson is now the sole member of his class that puts up similar numbers to all these great receivers that came into 2019 that does not have a contract extension. So, Steeler fans, the reason why this is neutral news is, like we've talked about many, many times before, if Deontay Johnson is going to get a new contract based around the numbers around him, it is going to be at least $22 million. Mm-hmm. Chris and I saw a tweet today where someone said, we don't want to pay Deontay Johnson $20 million. That'd be overpaying. That's the market, buddy. And honestly, right now, $20 million would be pretty cheap compared to what's being handed out right now.
Dude, for real. I mean, look at all the other wide receivers out there getting these massive deals. And I did fact check it. Both the DK and Debo got a 3-year, $72 million deal. They're pretty identical. I think DK got a little bit more, but it was only by a couple $100,000, which to them is pennies upon nickels.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, seriously, I'm so tired of talking about the DJ stuff. I know that talks have been going on with him and Omar Khan in regards to the contract situation. And I've heard many times from reports and everything that they want to keep DJ on long term. Obviously, if a deal can be made, that is one thing, but it doesn't always work out like that. And so we'll see what happens in the works. I do think that DJ deserves a payday, 20 million, I think, like Dom said, would be very much affordable, especially looking at the wide receiver market right now. But I feel like the area where we're going to get him locked in is probably going to be about that $22 million. Dom, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think if they actually do give him a contract extension, it is going to be around the $22 million mark. I don't see it for being for much less. Maybe it will be. Maybe if Deontay actually wants to stay, maybe he'll take a hometown discount. I don't really see that happening, though. And even if he doesn't, we've talked about this many times before, it's really not the end of the world if he decides to go. There is a lot of other options at receiver. People have constantly been talking about maybe drafting a new receiver compared to letting the ones that you have, instead of paying the ones that you have, per se. So I think that would be the way to go for them, potentially, if they don't like this outcome. But we've talked about this 8,000 times. Mm-hmm. So I think it's time we move on from that. The last bit of news, Chris, it is, I guess, bad news, but it's more disappointing than anything else. Now you know where I'm going with it, don't you?
You're about to bring up the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, the Miami Dolphins. I lost their first-round pick. And their third-round pick for the year after. And it's such a shame because the Dolphins, I don't give a shit about the Dolphins.
No, for real.
We're talking about Deshaun Watson.
Womp womp.
The jury came out and served the punishment, the official punishment that Deshaun Watson will be serving this year, which, to no surprise to us, is only 6 games. The same amount that Ben got for 24 less women. Not saying that matters. Just saying. The same amount that Le'Veon has gotten for smoking weed. Less than Martavius has gotten for smoking weed. Or Josh Gordon. Way less than Calvin Ridley, who bet $1,500
on his team to win, right?
Regardless, he wasn't even playing.
Fair enough.
$1,500. He bet that when this dude makes $1 million, and he's losing like $12 million this year.
Mm-hmm.
And Deshaun Watson got a 6-game suspension. If you are a fan of another team happening to listen to this podcast, you may think it's hypocritical for Steelers fans to be upset by this or to whatever because of Ben's situation. But truly, I think one of the big differences here is the Steelers themselves wanted Ben to have a punishment. They're the one that brought that to the NFL when those things happen. They're kind of sick of Ben's attitude, his cockiness at a young age. And they wanted the suspension. They wanted a punishment for him to kind of teach him a lesson. The Browns and the Browns fans have been appealing to make it less and less and less than it should be. And this doesn't really set a good precedent for the NFL, in my opinion. Regardless if you want to say what happened in the hearings or not, as a female fans that I have, the female fans I have around me in my life, in my household, it doesn't set a good example for the NFL, and it doesn't really make females want to watch a game that you're trying to advertise for.
Yeah. Going off of what Dom said, it's very disheartening to hear all the stuff that was going on surrounding the Watson case and hearing the verdict as far as what his suspension would be. Tailoring back to what he said about Big Ben, we are not trying to defend the fact of what Ben did was right. Like, yes, a lot of people will be like, oh, you know, the cases were so much different and like there's a lot less. Yes, what happened with Big Ben obviously was not cool, and we do not support that. But at the same time, I feel like for people to blatantly just ignore, especially Browns fans, to just ignore and be like, you know what, this is our quarterback, this is it. Like, that's 26 women that filed against him for this case, and it's disappointing to me, not only as a Steeler fan, but as a fan of the NFL, because you really see where their priorities are. And it shows that it's like, you know, we want ratings. We want people to watch. We don't really care what happens behind the scenes. You know, as long as like people stay quiet and money gets dispersed elsewhere. I mean, that's the general feeling that I'm getting from it. So it's just kind of tough to just sit back and be like, oh my gosh. But then, of course, you'll see all these videos being like, yeah, heck yeah, like we're going to the playoffs. I'm glad we got our quarterback back. It just, I don't know. I feel like there's a point to where you just got to be a decent human being and accept what just went down with that quarterback.
Yeah, it's the judge had also who ruled the 6-game suspension for the NFLPA to not appeal it. The NFL actually still has till Thursday this week. Today we're recording on a Tuesday. A little different, a little mixed up there. But they have until Thursday to decide if they want to appeal the 6-game suspension to potentially add more onto it. And they can drag the process out longer if they feel that necessary. The judge herself who gave the punishment of 6 games, had also written a report of things that were kind of really contradictory to a 6-game suspension, saying that A, he did do those things and tried to make contact with his penis, unwanted contact multiple times, inappropriately trying to do so, trying to force is the right word, but get them to
perform sexual
acts on it, and that usually is a crime that puts people on like a sexual predator list. But his suspension is a quarter per woman, and it's really, really disheartening. It truly is. So with that being said, to move on from that and to try to have a more positive outlook, we don't like to cuss on this podcast as much as we can, but F the Browns.
There you go.
And F Deshaun. And I can't wait to see the Steelers beat them with Deshaun. I hope they lose every game with or without Deshaun. I don't care. I want to pile drive them into the dirt. I hope they suck for a long time and use that dirty money that they use to get this guy guaranteed, and it blows up in their face. Done. That's it.
Cut.
Before we, this week, if you've been listening to our podcast the past couple weeks, on and off, we've been talking to the fans. We've been talking to other fans of the Steelers, not of us, please. But fans of the Steelers. We've been talking to you guys. And this week we actually do get a chance to talk to somebody else. We're going to bring them on in a couple of minutes. But I thought, Chris, we could talk kind of quickly about training camp.
Yeah.
And just some quick things. We don't have to go in depth. If you've been keeping with training camp, this has been the 6th practice. Let's talk about this. I'll kind of say the main topic, Chris. You give me a reaction if you want to. Everyone freaked out about Trubisky, Mason, and Kenny. Kenny was getting all the 13 reps. Mason the second team. Trubisky the first. Kenny was also not playing well with the third team, and everyone was calling him a bust after 3 practices. was calling him a bust after 3 practices. And then when Monday rolled around, or even Saturday maybe, but Monday, I think Monday, they gave Kenny Pickett the second team reps, and he's been throwing a lot better. Still has a lot to learn. He's a rookie. I hear he holds on the ball too long. Sometimes he makes some not great decisions and trying to fit the ball into tight spaces, but he is playing a lot better with a better talent around him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my thoughts. Yeah, no, I feel like this whole quarterback situation is kind of going as expected. You know, it was really nice to see Kenny get some second team reps and to see him excel in those moments. Now, granted, when I say excel, you know, he's still going out there and there's still some things that he's making as mistakes. You know, these are rookie mistakes. He's trying to fit it into tight windows, showing that he can be that dude coming into the season, or kind of be that dude to lead the Steelers on in the future. However, it's kind of nice because there has been a lot of overreacting, I feel like, from a lot of fans already wanting Kenny's head and whatever. And, you know, there's a lot to think about there too, because, you know, you're on third team, your line is worse, you have worse receivers. You know, I feel like as a defensive unit, you can make the same argument, but at the same time, I feel like we're a lot more deep, and there can be guys on third team like DeMarvin Leal, Isaiah Loudermilk, you know, like all those guys that can rush in. I've seen Jannard Avery's name pop up a lot of times going up against them and getting in through the line to get those sacks. I feel like when you have a third team offensive line, especially on a team last year who was pretty garbage at the offensive line, I would imagine our third team is surprisingly a lot worse.
Yeah.
So there's going to be less time in there. There's going to be, you know, harder situations to make. And even hearing it lately with Mason kind of getting those third team reps, he hasn't been doing as well as he did with second team reps. But I mean, I saw a report with Tomlin today saying, you know, just because Kenny's got a second team reps, don't be, you know, super excited thinking, oh, Kenny won the second spot. Because he's like, we're still in training camp. We're still seeing how things go. We just kind of want to like put him into a different situation, see how things go from here on out.
This is going to be a battle throughout training camp and throughout the preseason. And it will not be decided until the final game is over for the preseason. But besides Kenny Pickett being a rookie, the other rookies have been doing really well, been showing out. Calvin Austin's been playing really well. He's had some great big long runs and jet sweeps. Had a huge pass today, 60-yarder from
Mason Rudolph.
DeMarvin Leal has been playing really well on the line, playing above Loudermilk, who got drafted last year. He's been playing strong, as he should. He was a potential first-round pick before the last year he had in college. Mm-hmm. He's playing really strong. Surprise Mark Robinson. Yeah. I heard a lot about him. He's playing well. He played linebacker his last year in college and is playing really well for us. It'd be kind of exciting if he makes the team.
Yeah.
And then how could you forget the legend Pickens? Mm-hmm. George Pickens is making a name for himself right now. If you haven't seen any videos from training camp, I suggest you do by searching them up on Twitter. He is phenomenal with body control and speed and route running, and he already looks like he's got the makings to be the next big thing for Pittsburgh.
I'd agree. Like, the things that he's doing on that field is acrobatic and powerful, and it's just like, gosh, I feel like we haven't had this in the last few years, and it's really nice and refreshing to see. And I've heard things from Claypool, from other people being like, man, I feel like this guy could be the best rookie receiver from this class, and so many people thinking he's a steal. I'm really, really excited to see what George Pickens can do, and I feel like he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I do want to kind of shed a little light towards another rookie on our team that wasn't mentioned, probably because he was undrafted, but I've been hearing a lot of good stuff about Jaylen Warren.
Well, I was just about to say, last week when we talked about running backs, we talked about Mateo Durant a lot, but Jaylen Warren's making all the noise.
Yeah. I agree. You know, he's been doing amazing on, Back on
Backers.
Back on Backers and everything. I've been seeing so many tweets from Nick Farabaugh and Alex Kozora talking about how well he's been doing and how he's literally been sticking his nose down and, running over some guys and everything too. And honestly, just juking people out of their cleats essentially. So he's definitely making a name for himself. And from what I saw, a tweet that said Miles Jack, that all the defenders are starting to joke around, comparing him to Maurice Jones-Drew because he's so tall. Short. He's so short. He's like a little hamster. He's like a muscle hamster. So it's kind of cool to see him getting so much praise, especially as an undrafted guy.
Right, and to wrap it up, training camp real quick, because actually a lot of guys have been playing really well. We've heard kind of things here and there. Again, follow Alex Kozora or Nick Farabah on Twitter for more information. Next week, before their first preseason game, Chris and I are going to go through a whole list of players to watch, and we got a big one. But there's a lot of players to be excited about. I will say, lastly, Mitch Trubisky truly has not been practicing that well with the first-team offense. He's got some highs, got some lows. But he's going against the first-team defense, and this first-team defense is playing really, really well right now. Hopefully, that's just how they're going to play all year. It's not because our offense is bad, but they are really just shut down right now. TJ Watt's already in mid-season form. He's playing phenomenally in all these training camp practices. So hold your reservations on Mitch. Wait till preseason. If he still is struggling against these first/second-team defenses, then we got to mix some things up.
Yeah.
But hold your reservations on that. But that's training camp for right now. Training camp's still going on. Our first preseason game next week against against Seattle, August 13th, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, for you Minnesota people out here. But with that being said, let's bring on our guest to talk to.
Let's do it.
I'm going to send him a message right now, Chris. Why don't you let the people know?
All right. I always love these transitions because this is something that probably should be messaged a little early, but then we just do it on spot. So, go Steelers. And honestly, I feel like I have a way easier time doing this when I'm at my own house, but I just feel like a lot of pressure because we're just like right next to each other.
Yeah, don't mess up.
Like, guys.
Okay, I sent a message to join. There we go.
There he
Curtis.
is. You want to take yourself on mute?
What's up?
Oh, yep. Curtis, what's going on, man?
What's going on?
This is Curtis. What's last name again?
Richardson.
Curtis Richardson. Give it up for Curtis. Curtis, man, why don't you... Let me pull up my questions real quick now that we got you.
Sure.
Why don't you tell the people, Curtis, where you're from?
I'm from Miami, Florida. I was born and raised here by two Yinzers that moved down here in 1972 when my dad got laid off at the steel mill.
Oh, okay. So he was actually part of the steel mill in Pittsburgh.
Yes, he was.
That's actually really cool. So has he talked to you about that before? Like, what was that job kind of like, actually? That's like really interesting.
He said it was just really hard work, just pounding stuff all day and really hot, not being able to breathe. He hated it. Be honest with you.
Yeah, real blue collar stuff there. And that's what the Steelers are all about. How long have you been a Steelers fan?
All my life.
And how old are you?
42.
Give it up for this guy. That's a long time to be a Steelers fan. That's a long time. But not too long. Keep in mind, he's not old, everybody. He's young. He's a young guy.
Appreciate that.
So, were you kind of born into the fandom, or was there something else that...
Absolutely.
Born into it?
I was born down here, but I was wrapped in a terrible towel as soon as I was born. And and I was raised by, I speak, perfect Pittsburghanese, if you know what I mean. Got to get down there, So
down it, get down all that.
I still call soda pop. If you call soda pop down here in Florida, people look at you like you're from another planet. It's pretty funny.
Oh, what people in Florida call it? Soda?
Yeah, they call it soda.
Yeah, they're wrong. I mean, you guys. I mean, they're fine. If anyone's listening from Florida, they're fine. They're cool. What? So you've lived in Miami your whole life. I know that Miami. obviously the Dolphins, who you had to watch. Well, actually, let's start there with the Dolphins. And when you were growing up watching, was there any like rivalries between the Steelers and the people around you who might have been Dolphin fans?
Yes, because it's the Steelers, and it's pretty much like every. I mean, I remember going to games as a kid at Joe Robbie Stadium. I mean, I don't know what it's called now. It's like Hard Rock Stadium or something, but
yeah.
But it's there was definitely a little bit of a rivalry, if I can remember back in the day. Yeah, for sure, especially with Dan Marino. Being from Pitt.
Yeah,
and
I was about to say, like, what was that like? Because you actually got to experience the Steelers not drafting Dan Marino. Did you want them to draft Dan Marino?
I mean, at the time, yeah, because we needed a quarterback. He was really one of the best ones. So,
and then you had to watch him play with Miami forever.
Yes, and then they never built a team around him and took him to a championship. The poor guy.
Could you imagine if the Steelers were actually smart there? Because if you think about it, me and Chris have had this discussion before. As much as we love the Steelers, and they've gotten very lucky with 6 championships across 2 great quarterbacks, if you take those 2 out of the equation, they're really bad at evaluating quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah.
And especially during that 80s, 90s period, to not go after Dan Marino. I also read an article that there's a point in Dan Marino's career later on where he was a free agent, and he was like, well, now I want to come to Pittsburgh. And Bill Cowher said, no, we're good. We have Neil O'Donnell.
Oh, God.
Which is asinine. Yeah, that's... they early on, they got rid of... who were we just talking about? That they cut. Hall of Famer. Early on.
Oh, like way early.
Yeah. We just talked about him from the Colts. Baltimore Colts. Oh, Unitas.
Oh, Johnny Unitas.
Yes, Johnny Unitas, yes.
Yeah, they cut Unitas. Bill Cowher didn't want to draft Ben. The Roonies made him do it.
Yeah, Dan stepped in and was like, no, I'm not making that same mistake twice.
Yeah, and it's just... And so it's kind of crazy. Like yeah, the Steelers, we have 6 championships and we've had 2 amazing quarterbacks. But that's kind of the NFL. You kind of get lucky, and you either strike
like a lottery ticket,
don't,
man.
And it really is. And hopefully we got it again with Kenny.
I think so. I think Kenny's got it, dude.
I do too. I think Kenny could get there. I think people are kind of freaking out right now a little quickly off of 5 training camp practices.
Yeah, people need to slow down, man.
In the boat. Yeah, I'm also in the boat though too that if Kenny sits this year, I'm not going to be mad about it.
Right.
I think that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of
Kenny,
expect it.
I was just going to say, I will say what's really appealing about Kenny right now is watching him ride out of the pocket and just laser it into the back of the end zone. I feel like that's something we haven't had in a while.
For real. That mobility is key, man. Tomlin rang the bell all year last year. Mobility.
Yeah.
And here we go. Here we go. We got our guy.
And I'm so excited. Regardless of like if he plays second or third string in the preseason, I'm so excited to watch him play in a game. We're so pumped.
Likewise.
Yeah. So besides just the Dolphins, as you've gotten older, what has it been like being a fan in your area? Obviously, when you live in Miami, it's all Dolphin fans, but I'm sure there's got to be a bleeding of Jaguars and Buccaneers fans. Probably more Buccaneers as of late.
A little bit more Buccaneers, but here in Miami, it's definitely Miami. I mean, I got teased a lot, wearing Steelers stuff to school, but I would just ask them, hey, how many trophies you got in the case? I rest my case.
Yeah, that is the argument to use for sure. We've had to use that many times here. I mean, the Steelers and Minnesota aren't the Vikings. They aren't big rivalries, but when the Steelers have 6 rings and Minnesota's lost 4,
yeah,
hard to argue.
Yeah,
I will say the annoying thing here in Minnesota is dealing with more Packer fans because then they'll use like the 6 ring like argument, and then they'll be like, oh, but we have like 14 championships from the 20s. And I'm like, all right, so when you played against 4 teams,
right?
And they also beat us.
Well, they had leather helmets.
Yeah.
It's brutal. So, in your time watching the Steelers, if you had to narrow it down to one moment, and if you do 2, that's fine, one moment, what would be your favorite memory of watching Steelers.
When Ben hit Santonio in the fucking corner of the end zone in the Super Bowl, I was on deployment in the Marines, and I don't think I screamed that loud my entire life. Like I scared my Marines. I screamed that loud.
You gave away your position.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're like,
for sure.
Oh gosh.
Where were you at? Where were you deployed at?
We were just doing a workup. We were in I don't know if you ever heard of El Centro, California.
Sure. Yep.
It's like right on the border. I was in the air wing, so we were doing like a just a workup in the heat. Our pilots needed to get checks in the boxes, flying in the heat and stuff. So that's what we were doing out there.
Well, hey,
even though
we kind of missed this already, but let's give it up for Curtis for being a Marine. Thank you for your service, my man.
Oh, appreciate that, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. How long were you in the Marines for?
5 years, from 2005 to 2010.
Dang, so the entire new Steelers run.
Yes, I was in boot camp when they won against the Seahawks. Our drill instructors let us watch the game, but we weren't allowed to like cheer or nothing. We just like sat there, and it like took everything in me.
And you're retired now, right?
Oh yeah. I've been out since 2010.
Yeah, well, we haven't won anything since 2010, so maybe you should go back in.
Maybe I should go back in, right? We won 2 while I was in.
Yeah, that might be the key. I don't know.
Maybe my son will have to join. We'll see.
Yeah, hey, let's raise him up. Let's do it. Okay, so out of all the players you watch, who is your favorite player?
Troy Polamalu.
Oh, golden.
Yeah,
great player.
Yeah, in the 90s, I'd probably say Lloyd, Greg Lloyd. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So before we go into that, I want to say Troy Polamalu, obviously, amazing player. We had the privilege of watching him when we first started watching football. We started watching in 2004.
Dude, when he had that interception in the snow, when he scooped it up, and they were like, "There's no way he caught that," and they zoomed in, and kept zooming in. Yeah. Oh my God. Like, that was when I was like, crazy. You are not human, dude. You are not from this world.
And we've seen the clip a billion times, but the pick six he had against the Ravens in the AFC Championship game, that coincidentally was our father's 50th birthday.
Oh wow, that's so awesome!
It was the same day, and that was awesome to watch on TV. It was really awesome to watch.
What a birthday present!
Yeah, seriously, big time birthday present. What would you? So you said the 90s, right? I think it's a great point right there. Chris and I, obviously, like, I would like to say that I would like to think that we know a lot about the Steelers, but we know a lot about the times where they won. We know a lot about the 70s. We know a lot about the times where we watched, like 2000 to 2021, whatever year it is. Right now, 22.
Present.
So why don't you give some insight about like what watching the 90s teams were like? Because it's always seemed like they were always so close. It seemed like they were probably just missing the quarterback, but what was that like watching the teams then?
Well, the Steelers were on TV a lot because of their market, because of the Steelers. Yeah. They were on TV a lot. So the Dolphins were really stinky too. So aside from Dan Marino being a stud, but other than that, it was a lot of pain, man. It was a lot of pain. They lost a lot of games that they should have won. Like just undisciplined, unsound football. Like it was bad. You guys should be lucky for what we've had for the last 20 years. Like for real.
For sure. We are.
I feel like all the time we talk about, when the Steelers don't have quite the year that we have or want to have, we're like, you know what? We still haven't seen a losing season.
I remember the 90s, man. So I'm just happy that we're over 500 every year. We need to win a playoff game, though. We do.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I think we can get there. Even if it doesn't happen this year, I think we're close.
I think so too.
Real close.
I was believing for fucking 17 minutes last year. When TJ was sliding into the end zone there, I was a believer, and then the air got sucked out of that sail real quick.
I think we all were. That's what the Steelers do. They get you to believe. Going into that game, we had talked about this before, but Chris and I were just happy that they made the playoffs. We weren't expecting them to do anything the way they played all year. We were just like so pumped that they made it, and we're like, what a great way to end Ben's last year. We were like, there's no shot we're beating the Chiefs. And I agree with you. When TJ got the touchdown, I was like, maybe we could win.
Maybe in a simulated world.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they blew the doors off us, but that was also to be expected. I don't really know like the receivers too from the 90s, like Yancey, or was that 80s? Yancey Thigpen.
I think he was late 80s.
Late 80s? Yeah. Yancey. There's who was the other dude? It was Louis Lips.
Yeah, he's one of them.
The 90s? That's 90s, yeah. He was really good, right?
I mean,
I haven't even seen highlights of him.
Compared to the receivers today,
Ooh, okay.
I mean,
that's good to know.
Some of these receivers today are just incredible, man. They're freaks.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of some freaks, we got a freak coming in, George Pickens.
Yes, my favorite of the draft. I've been saying it before we drafted him. I was all over him in my mock drafts,
Yep.
I mean, I've been all over this. I like Georgia. I watch Georgia because they're a defense team. They built defense, I like their program. So, I knew about George Pickens just by watching them. But, oh, man, when we picked him up, I was like, oh, my God. First team All-Pro. He's going to be a superstar. I just feel it in my bones.
We, I don't know if you've listened to other podcasts. I know you've been following us for a while, which we appreciate on Twitter and stuff. But we had done a kind of a series before the draft where we picked every position, and when we did receiver, Pickens was at the top of our list,
right?
And we talked about how bad we wanted him, and throughout the draft, it kind of seemed like he was gonna go to somebody else.
He was born to be on the Steelers,
yeah, he was, and I could have swore the Ravens were gonna steal him or the Bears. I thought
we
someone's
stole
gonna
Calvin
give him for
Austin
us.
from them.
Yeah, and good, because I think he's good too. We did some mock on him as well. Yeah. We're very excited to see. We're so excited about so many players. If you listen to next week, Curtis, we're going to be talking about a list of players to watch before our first preseason game.
Right.
And boy, is it a list.
Yeah.
But I think that's what makes preseason fun.
Yeah.
To watch about a lot of these players.
Hey, man, shout out to the Steelers scouting department. They really know what they're doing. We have been drafting well for the last 20 years. Some of these fans need to just take pause and, let the Steelers be the Steelers. Like, just sit back and watch and enjoy. You know what I mean? Like, enjoy it. Because
totally.
It could be a lot worse. We could be Cleveland.
Yeah. Thank God we're not.
Right.
Thank God we're not Cleveland.
What a mess.
And I know. And I was just talking to Chris earlier about believing the Steelers and trusting them, because from the outside looking in, it didn't seem like they had done enough for a second running back position. But I've heard some really good things, some strong things about Benny Snell and McFarland and Jaylen Warren. From training camp.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Jaylen Warren so far.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things where it's like, well, if they didn't get a second running back, maybe they know something we don't, and these guys are going to perform. That's what I'll go for.
I actually have a little fun fact. Did you know Jaylen Warren is related to Willie Parker?
Yeah, I just read that on Twitter earlier. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've been like talking and getting advice and everything. I was like, what a guy to get advice from.
Right. That's Willie Parker.
Undrafted to undrafted. Cousins and cousins.
I mean, it worked out the same way.
The Steelers is all about bloodlines, man. They love bloodlines.
Yeah, which is until I got rid of that brother. Until I got rid of Edmonds last week. But yes, I agree. They love the brothers. They love the bloodlines and all that for sure. Have you ever been to a game in Heinz Field?
Not at Heinz Field, no. Unfortunately.
Do you plan on going?
Eventually, yeah. At some point, I'd love to. I actually want to go to Latrobe and do the whole camp experience and do that. And yeah, it's a dream of mine. But wife, kids.
We were just talking about that. We were just talking about that. How old are your kids, if you don't mind me asking?
My son is turning 15 and my daughter is 13.
Okay, yeah. So getting around the age where they might want to go take a trip.
Right.
It'd be fun.
Right.
Yeah.
I think my son would enjoy it, but my daughter would not.
Yeah, I've been to Pittsburgh twice. There's tons of stuff to do. Yeah. There's tons of stuff there.
Oh, for sure.
I'm losing my train of thought. I was gonna say if you do decide to go to a game, even if it's not this year but next year, make sure you message us, man. We'll make sure we circle that on our calendar. So for your first game at Heinz Field to get a win, because our first game at Heinz Field is unforgettable, and it was a really awesome experience.
Hell yeah, definitely.
So make sure you let us know so we can cheer extra hard.
Oh, for sure, dude, for sure.
Okay, so here's one of our final questions, but we'll probably talk a little bit more after that about like training camp, what's going on. But what is your prediction for the team this year? It could be record, it could be stats, it could be a hot take. What is your prediction?
I think the Steelers will win a playoff game this year. I think Mitch Trubisky is going to be the starting QB till about week 6. Then he's going to get hurt. And I think Kenny's going to come in and take his job. That's my hot take.
I like it.
He's gonna roll into a.
I mean, actually, okay. I don't like that Trubisky's getting hurt, but like
because
I like
he tries too hard. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to catch up with him. You know what I'm saying? I think he's going to get hurt because our line's not too good, man. I'm not saying that, you know.
That's true. That's very true.
There's 0 Pro Bowlers blocking for him, man. So he's going to be running for his life for the first 4 weeks.
I don't know. Kevin Green is not a center anymore.
Yeah, Kendrick.
Oh, sorry, Kendrick Green. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Mason
Cole's
actually pretty decent, and I know James Daniels is a really good guard. But
he's really good.
My biggest concern on the line right now is right tackle. I don't believe in cheeks.
Yeah. Me either. And it was very odd that they gave him a contract, too.
Yeah, I think it's because of his youth and his experience, honestly. They think they could still mold that clay. Oh, well.
I don't know if you saw that on Twitter. They're talking to that Tevin Jenkins from the Bears is a trade candidate, potentially.
Ooh. He got back problems, though, right?
So, yeah, he hasn't really played at all, and I think he's got some injury history. The thing is, though, is that he was a second-round pick last year.
Yeah.
And he hasn't really played at all, and the Bears are already over him. I feel like you could get him for cheap.
Right.
And I feel like maybe take a flyer on him. Like, I think if this guy hasn't even played yet, you could probably do a 7th-round pick, probably.
Yeah.
A 7th or a 6th.
Maybe.
And just take a flyer on him, see what happens.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, and they're going to need some help on the line for sure.
Oh, yeah. And he's only got a back injury because he had to carry the Bears. You know?
Jeez.
Exactly.
No, but I really like Mitch Trubisky. I've been watching him. But like I said, I think he's going to try too hard, and I hope I'm wrong, but I know how the NFL goes, man.
Yeah, it definitely could happen. That's the thing with the NFL. It's so crazy. And like you think you know exactly what's going to happen, and then boom, it's just, you're surprised week to week by the complexities of the game. That's why we all love the NFL so much.
Right.
That's why it's always so fun. I like that prediction entirely. That we've been across the board on, a first losing season or winning a playoff game. I would love to see them at least get a playoff win because so many people count them out, and I think I wasn't counting them out, but I was on the train of this is going to be a down year for them, even though I think they have a better roster overall.
That defense is going to be legit, man.
Yeah, I agree. But the more I've been seeing training camp, the more I'm getting tired of people talking smack.
Oh yeah,
I'm just ready for them to
pay no attention to the talking heads. You know what I mean? Pay no attention to them. Just pay attention to the Steelers and how they're playing when it comes like Halloween. If they're, by Halloween is usually what I judge if they're legit or if they're shit.
Yeah, and pay attention to Northern Steel because we know what's up.
Right.
So with training camp going on right now, how do you feel about like the ins and outs of what's happening? I know we talked about Jalen Warren a little bit. How do you feel about the Kenny Pickett stuff going on? Because we don't have an issue with anything happening yet. We think it's too early to tell.
Me neither. I trust Coach. You know what I mean? Coach Tomlin he's been there for 18 years for a reason. He knows what he's doing, man. So I leave that up to coach. I trust in coach. He's going to make the right decision when it comes time. And
Right. Yeah, it has been really fun to watch. Is there anyone that you've been like surprised to hear about?
Actually, who was it that they were mentioning? The undrafted cornerback Steele from
Chris Steele?
Yeah, I've read a few good things about him. Apparently, picked off Kenny Pickett a couple times.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard some good things about him as well as Doug
Costin.
Yeah, Doug Costin.
Oh yeah, the USFL guy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. I've heard a lot of good things about him, batting balls down,
right.
creating some good pressure at the line. I'm really excited to just get into preseason. In conclusion, get into preseason and really check to see how these players do. There's so many players to watch, man.
Yeah, I agree. Who do you guys thinking is the starting QB for Seattle for the preseason game?
Seattle.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know what? I was they Seattle, like the talking heads and the Twitter, like everyone keeps saying Geno Smith is their guy, but I just read recently that Drew Lock has been killing it in training camp, and I'm talking like missing like only a couple passes, touchdowns all the time. Mm-hmm. Like he's been crushing it. So I don't know. Maybe they do Geno. Maybe they do. I think they're kind of the same position as us. Is that they're gonna play both of them for sure because they don't know exactly where to go with their starting quarterback. Like Mitch is gonna play the first game and get some snaps.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun preseason game. Honestly, I think it's gonna be pretty fun to watch. Like so many questions for both teams. It's gonna be a fun preseason game.
Yeah, and I think it'll be a good test too for the defense too, because in theory, I don't think no offense to any Seattle fans if they listen, but I don't think Geno and Drew Lock are really that great, and I think it'd be a good show if the first team defense is out there. I don't know if TJ will play; he doesn't really need to. I don't know if Minka and those guys will play. But if they do play, it'd be nice to see them like shut them down.
Right. I want to see them try to run on us again. Try to run that ball again on us. Let's see if you can run that ball again.
I was just thinking the same thing. Who was it? Alex Collins was the guy who's just running all over us.
I mean, like he was, like he was Derrick Henry or something. Like it was ridiculous. He was just running people over.
Yeah. To be fair, I felt like that was like most teams last year against us. Our run defense was pretty atrocious.
Cooked us, man. Dalvin Cook cooked us.
We were at that game.
Yeah, we were at that live.
I'm so sorry.
Not fun.
The best part of that game was the Flow Rider concert at halftime.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it was brutal, man. It was brutal. But yeah, we're pumped, man. Hey, I want to thank you for hopping on the podcast with us. I'm glad we got to figure it out. We found a day that worked for us, and I'm glad we could bring you on here, Curtis. We appreciate that.
I appreciate you guys having me, man. I'm sorry that we had so many technical difficulties, man. That was crazy.
Hey, that's okay. It's okay. Hey, Chris, why don't you give me a shout out on where to follow him?
Yeah, sure. All right, so my man, it's Richardson.
Yes.
Yeah, Curtis Richardson. We've been talking a lot over on Twitter. He's actually one of the first people that reached out to us and communicated with us, and we've definitely developed a relationship there. So let's see here. It's you can follow him at RG_Hammers with 2 Z's. Is that correct? All right. Follow our boy Curtis on Twitter. He's definitely well involved in the Steeler community. And he's a good guy. I mean, you heard him here in the podcast and everything. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, man.
I appreciate you, man. We'll talk to you later. All right, that was Curtis.
Woo!
Appreciate him being on. Chris is holding his laptop so he can't clap. Very disrespectful for a Hess Marine for not to clap. Yeah, here we go. Time to clap. Thank you.
I'll be honest, my arm is killing me right now.
Yeah, that was really great talking to him. Good dude. Good vibes all around. But what do you expect, man? That's Steeler fans for you. Good vibes, good people. That's what it's all about. So if you want to share your story, just like Curtis and just like the many others, please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. DM us somewhere. Send us a mail. Send us a package. Send us money.
All right, maybe not that last part, but it would be greatly appreciated. I'm always active on Twitter. I'm always looking at DMs. I'm always trying to communicate and get together with the community. So, like, please, if you are interested and you want to tell your story, hop on the podcast. We'd love to have you on. We love growing in this community. And as always, go Steelers.
All right, we're going to take it from here. We'll see you guys next week for a preseason game preview against Seattle and a list of people who to watch and potentially, maybe not, but potentially, talking to another one of the Yinzers. But for now, we'll be signing off. See you guys next week.
Peace out.
Deuces.